Hi, welcome. You're listening to Navigating the Truth. It is September 17th, 2023, and my guest today is Molly Murray.
I can't hear you, but you can hear me, right?
We interrupt to bring you this.
We've hijacked your daily dose of regurgitated news to bring you Navigating the Truth. Brace yourself, listeners, as you're about to enter a world where the narrative is no longer masqueraded as the truth. A world where the conspiracies of yesterday's translate into the truths of today.
Are you listening?
The veils covering the truth are lifting, and understandings once suppressed are finally being revealed. Will you be ready? And now, your host and navigator through these circles of lies, the host of Navigating the Truth, Caroline Bell Tumblety.
Hi, welcome to Navigating the Truth. It is September 17th. It is raining here in Scotland. It's overcast. It has been for most of the day, but it's actually kind of nice day. It's like a kind of rainy sun day where black and white movies, that's what I used to do back in the day, like curl up on the couch, hot chocolate, and watch a movie. And I feel like I haven't been here in a while. I'd like to thank the listeners who have chosen to listen in today. Thank you. There is a donate button on the KCR radio website. If you like what you're hearing, there are lots of really terrific shows here with really wonderful, like seasoned hosts and like tremendous guests. There's something here for everybody if you like it. There's the Dark Vault. You can always sign up. It's not expensive, no compared to a lot of things out there, and there's just so much choice there. And I also want to thank the listeners who have donated. Thank you very much. And my website is souliam.org. And I'm actually putting together a tour, and there is information about that. Like I'm trying to put together some dates for May. And my email address is right there on the website if anybody wants any information. I also have my YouTube, which is I've had YouTube for since YouTube started. When I left, I used to put up videos when I lived in the States, but it was more like little videos I had made like around wherever I had been. I think I even had put up the Phoenix lights that I had saw in Arizona at one point. But when I moved back here to the UK, I had to redate everything. So it was like I couldn't keep the accounts because I was no longer in America. And when I had first set them up, my address had been in America. Like I really had to jump through hoops, like with everything. Like I lost a lot of music, like in iTunes, and like all my accounts all kind of, even though I had them for the beginning. The only one that actually has kept the date for the beginning is Facebook, the one I don't like. And that's just typical. So I'm on Facebook. It's Caroline Bell Tumblety. And I hope you're all enjoying your Sunday. I hope you have your tea or your coffee. And I have an awesome guest here today. I have a wonderful lady that is living very close to where I am. And we had a sit down, and I invited her on, and she graciously accepted, which was awesome. And I'm just going to get her bio here. Here we go. I have the lovely Molly Murray with me today. And Molly Murray is a neurodiverse writer, creative flow coach, and a rapid transformational therapy practitioner who lives on a beach in North Ayrshire, Scotland, and owns the Seahorse Bookstore with her husband and son. I love the name of the store. She is passionate about helping striving creatives heal the starving artist wound, activate the creative success archetypes, and bring the power of creative flow into every part of life. When you create the visions on your heart, you change the world in wonderful ways. This is how we create a new earth. Molly is the author of the poetry collection, Misdiagnosed, I like that, I like the name, Indigo Collective Press to 2021, and her poems and stories have appeared in over 30 publications, including Litro, the Curlew, and I don't know if I pronounced that right, and the third Wednesday. So I am really thrilled to welcome Molly. Welcome, Molly. How are you? You have to unmute.
Oh, there we go. I'm so wonderful. Hey, Caroline. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm so thrilled to share this space.
Oh, yeah, me too. It's, I've been in your store a few times. I've been in the bookshop. I was just thrilled when it opened up in town. And it is it's a great addition, like, to our little town here on the North Ayrshire coast. So I'm going to ask you, Molly, how did you get to be in Ardrossan?
That is a very fun question. It's a long journey, and I'm thrilled to be here. So I'll try to make it as short as I can.
No, take your time. We want details.
Okay, good. I'll dive in then. You'll get the full story then. When we were back in America, my husband and I, when we got married, we lived in the Highlands, and that was about 10 years ago. And then we moved back to America, back to the Pacific Northwest. So I wanted to go back home and to settle there for a while. And our life just started to crumble and fall down around us. He had an awesome job that we moved there for that turned out to be kind of just a disaster. And a lot of people we trusted just turned out to be completely untrustworthy. We were actually working for a church at the time, and that was kind of the beginning of deconstruction for me when I saw so much sexual abuse in the church. And we kind of found out all these things, and then found out that people did not want to hear the truth. So we were not a good fit there because we love the truth, love honesty. And so we got out and just had to completely restart our lives. And we'd just given up everything to move back to America. And then a year in, we have to restart everything.
Whoa.
And so we just felt our lives completely crumbling. And we had a 1-year-old boy at that time. And so that was kind of, and also at the same time, I had been developing this severe and also what physicians called incurable pain disease. It's one of the worst pain diseases in the world. And I had it for several years at that point, but it became really unbearable. I started to have pain flares that were, it felt like giving birth every couple of days. It was just awful. And so it really began to interfere with life too much. And then we moved back to Montana to be near my parents so that my son could have some time with them. And we just felt life crumbling around us as we were trying to make new beginnings, and at the same time wade through faith as we explored everything that had happened to us in Oregon. And that's when I just had a real spiritual awakening as I opened up to honesty. And it was actually really neat. The first thing I did was I started taking essential oils, and I could feel as my vibration rose, I became more and more aware of kind of the magic of the world around me. And I noticed magic beginning to happen in my life. I remember this one turning point. I mean, there were several turning points in the journey, but this one time in particular, I went to the doctor's office. It was actually an oncologist in Helena, Montana. And I realized I had sat in that same oncologist office 5 years before I got married, because I had a cancer scare just before I was married. And then when we moved back to Montana, here we were 5 years later, and I was having an even worse cancer scare and getting checked out and tested and everything. And here I was, after several tests to kind of find out the yay or nay, whether I had it or not. And I just sat there on the same waiting bench, and I realized, this is bizarre. I've been across the world, I've been across the country, but here I am 5 years later in the exact same bench, and I could just see this cycle going on in my life. And I realized that this cycle was going to keep going on until I stopped it. I realized that doctors were no help. I've been to physicians in the UK and America at that point, specialists trying to get help. And I realized that the only person who could stop this was me.
Wow. Yep.
And it was a very, very powerful point. And so I made a promise to myself right then that I would change things because I wanted to be there for my son, and I wanted to see him and to see him grow up and to be able to enjoy that, and for him not to always have a sick mother who couldn't get out of bed. And so I didn't know how I was going to do it. At the point, I didn't even know anything about manifestation, didn't know what the word meant. But I decided that I would change whatever was going on and stop that cycle. And then things started to fall into place. It was just about that point that I learned about the impact of trauma on your physical cells. And I began to research that because I'd been through so much physical and emotional and spiritual trauma in my teens and 20s that my body was just wrecked. And so this made so much sense that I kept amassing horrible symptoms, horrible illnesses, because it had such a relation to all the trauma that I had been through that I had just been running from. I hadn't ever stopped to heal it. I had just been kind of trying to cover it up and be like, oh, pretend to be normal, basically. Yeah. So then I learned this powerful connection, and I realized that if I could heal the trauma, I could heal myself. So I just began to experiment with different things, but I was still hoping at that point to find a doctor who would be able to help me. And so I started taking essential oils, started different naturopathic remedies, and then I manifested an appointment with one of the leading specialists in the world.
Wow.
Yeah, and I got in to see him in just like 2 months, which normally it was like an 8-month waiting list. So everything like lined up. He was out of state, but he was covered by my insurance, those things you think about in the US. All of these things just magically lined up. And I was like, wow, this manifestation stuff really works, because that was the first thing that I had intentionally manifested. And then, so I go in, I get a laparoscopic surgery, and he discovered endometriosis. And I don't even want to say the name of the other one because I'm not speaking it into existence.
Okay.
But it is one of the worst pain diseases in the world. And he told me that it's so-called incurable and that it's degenerative. So I was kind of at a high point right then, and he said it was just going to go downhill, and there weren't any medications for it that were any help at all. And so the best I could hope for was to just do whatever I could do naturally. But there was basically no research, no help for me, and that I was on my own. And and that was just sobering to hear from, one of the leading specialists in the world. It was not what I wanted to hear, what I expected to hear, but I knew I remember sitting, and we were staying with my parents at the time so that I could recover, and they were helping out with my son. And then, so I remember sitting on this bed, and it was again that kind of moment where I saw like my past, and I was like, here I am in my parents' house. This could go, I could just see this cycle going on where things got worse and worse, or they could get better and better. And so I made a conscious decision at that moment that I am going to manifest healing. And there were no precedents. I didn't know anyone who had. I was in Facebook groups with people who had this disease, and from everything I read, it just got worse and worse and worse. It was horrific. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to find my own way. And I did. Started biohacking it from everything I knew about healing the trauma in my subconscious mind and my emotional field, and in my physical cells, and then of course my conscious mentality. So I worked on all of those levels because I knew that it would take all of those levels to free me from this disease. And the amazing thing, I had suffered from it for about 8 years. It had really stopped my life. It was supposed to get worse and worse, but in just about 6 months, I had completely healed myself And just a few months after that, I was completely freed of the pain medications, which I was on the very highest dose. And the doctor said, there's nothing else we could do to help this.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's an incredible. Well done, you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, that is so fantastic. Yeah. Like the specialist, really, he he had nothing, huh? He had
No.
absolutely nothing. Wow. Good for you, Molly. Good for you.
Thank you so much. I've always been thankful, though, that he kind of left that door open, and I feel like it gave me the nudge I needed to be
Yes.
independent, to step into my own power, because I was not a person who, it was a big stretch for me to even use oils at that point.
Yeah.
The circles I was in, it's very controversial. So it was a huge step for me to think I'm going to take this into my own hands and heal a disease that hasn't been healed before, and just trust that no cure means there hasn't been a cure found yet. So that was like the phrase that I kept echoing to myself.
Yeah, and you found it. It was in you the whole time. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to back up a wee bit because your story is wonderful. I love it. It is so inspirational. But the meeting in the Highlands, you just kind of skipped over that with you and your husband. How about, because you shared that with me when I first sat down and had a talk with you, and it gave me goosebumps. And I think the listeners will like it.
Oh, I'd love to tell about that. So how my husband and I got together. Is that what you think? Oh, okay. So it is a fun story. So back when I was in high school, probably 16 or 17 years old, my cousin got married in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I went with my family to his wedding, and all the buzz was about this Scottish guy that was at his wedding, because he had, for whatever reason, like my cousin is from a town near New Orleans, same as I am. So for whatever reason, he had just found this kind of very small college in the Highlands and decided to go there for a year of college. And so he went there and he got to know Gordon. And then when Joe, my cousin, got married, Gordon went down, flew across the world to Tulsa to go to his wedding. And so I kind of met him very briefly there, and my brother got to know him a bit more. And then when my brother and I were in the UK later on that summer, we and this is so silly because now I know all about geography in the United Kingdom, and especially Scotland. And when you look at a map, you have no idea what is going on inside, because maps do not show how twisty and turny every little road is. But I remember I was there with my brother Richard in London, and we had a few extra days, and we were like, why not go see our friend Gordon in the Isle of Lewis?
Wow.
And now I know it's like a massive trip, but at the time I had like zero idea, like zero clue. So I think we took a plane from London to Inverness, and then we took a bus to Ullapool, and then we took a ferry to Lewis, and we took trains in between at places. And at that point, I thought that I was like literally falling off the world. To get to this tiny island in the middle of the Atlantic, and Gordon lived on this croft that was on rolling hills down to cliffs that just fell into the ocean. And I just thought I had entered this epic story.
You did.
Some places like this, and it was amazing. I just completely fell in love with the island, and just passionately, I just knew it was like my place. I knew I had this deep, deep connection to Scotland, but particularly to the Isle of Lewis. And Gordon and I had a ton of chemistry, but he's a bit older, so we were just kind of, and I guess I was 18 by that point, just to make it clear things up a bit. But so we flirted a lot, and everybody thought we were very into each other, but we weren't. We were very adamant about that, but I thought he was super into me, and he thought I was super into him. We both felt sorry for each other. But we had the best time. Like, we just had so much fun. And he showed me all over the island. And particularly, we went to this beautiful place called the Callanish Stones. And it was the most magical place I'd ever been. These stones have been there for 5,000 years. You know, it's been a sacred religious place for 5,000 years. And you just connect to this deep, deep humanity. And so I just fell in love with the island and with this place. And then went back to America. I was kind of heartbroken to leave the Isle of Lewis. And I always kept postcards up on my mirror and whatever. And the funny thing is that I didn't know about manifesting at the time, but I was manifesting because some of my friends and even a boyfriend or two would like pretend to have a Scottish accent because they knew I had this like crush on Scotland. And so it was just so much fun. And then a few years later, I went back with some friends to Edinburgh, and Gordon was living down there. So I stayed with him for a night, and same thing. Everybody thought we had a crush on each other. We felt sorry for each other. We didn't have a crush, just a lot of chemistry. Mm-hmm. And then 4 years later, or 3 years, I went to Oxford for a summer school in creative writing, and he came down to see me, and it was just love at first sight for him. We just had this beautiful 3-day romance. It was like a gorgeous fling. And then we talked a little bit, and then I was just like, oh, I can't let you go. After a few months. And so he came to see me in Montana. I went back to see him, and I had been planning that we'd date a few years, but I was visiting him, and I just woke up one morning and knew that this was my life, that I would never leave, that he was my husband. And the funny thing was, I had been like nowhere near marriage before that. But then one day I woke up thinking, if he's going to ask today, I'm going to say yes. This is like the time, the place. Well, that day there were rainbows everywhere. He took me back to the place in Lewis where all the places we'd been. He took me to the Callanish Stones, and then he like popped the question, and I was like, yes.
Right at the Callanish Stones. Yep.
Yes, it's such a magical space.
Oh, that is a great story. You know, like that is just the best story, like to pass down like through the generations.
Oh, well, I love that we can take our son there now. Yeah. You know, it's just such a special space for us. We love exploring and having, you know, those special little adventures that are just so full of heart and magic, which you can have everywhere in Scotland. That's like my favorite thing to do.
Yeah. Oh, Scotland's like, you don't go far. Like there's a view, like you really don't, like, I mean, here, I mean, it doesn't matter where we are. Like if you walk along the South Shore, you've got the mountains right there on the other side of the water. I mean, it's really spectacular, you know, and even the cities, you know, the cities have like a lot of character in them, a lot of beautiful old buildings. Oh, look at that. We're coming up on our first break, Molly, and I thank you for being my guest. And hold on, listeners, we will be right back after this 3-minute break.
You're listening to Navigating the Truth with Caroline Bell Tumblety, where the truth survives and the lies are exposed.
I just want to assure you that everything is under control. There's been no damage except for some temporary malfunction of the radio.
Come be a part of this awakening by joining us in chat or by calling our hotline at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers, find us on Skype at KCOR Radio.
We're pushing the ultimate frontier here.
Control must be maintained.
More disinformation exposed and the truth discovered. After a word from our sponsors.
1 million miles till midnight. A story of timelines, artificial worlds, simulated races, and the galactic imprint. And the destiny of a blue world called Earth. 1 million miles till midnight, written by Solaris Blue Raven, is a journey through the mind's eye which allows the reader to surf a wave of technological and multidimensional intellect, revealing a bridge between conscious design and the truth. A multidimensional bleed-through awakens the world of artificial intelligence to set sail into the frontiers of a vast multiverse, morphing planets and terraforming ascended worlds beyond the linear programs of a fated race. 1 million miles till midnight will awaken, inspire, prepare, and enlighten one to the many multidimensional states of consciousness and worlds we reside in. With every cell and atom, we are this truth and multiverse. 1 million miles till midnight. Written by Solaris Blue Raven. Available now at Amazon.com. Don't wait. Get your copy today.
1, 2, 3, 4!
To the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
I love the way it sounds.
Love the music. I listen all day.
The future of radio is here and now.
Alien Deceptions, a suspenseful sci-fi romance thriller by Tina Marie, featuring the tantalizing Erica Jones and the mysterious Russell Hamilton. An out-of-this-world book of fiction based on years of document facts and files the government does not want you to know about, at least not yet. Alien Deceptions by Tina Marie. Available now at Amazon.com or get a signed copy at TinaMarieEntertainment.com. Get your copy now.
Change your frequency, change your life with the Lemurian Plug. The Lemurian Plug is easy to control, simple to set up, and wireless. It helps to neutralize toxins and has restorative frequencies for healing. It also helps to protect you and your family from EMFs. The Lemurian Plug is energy efficient and designed using ancient technology for a superior design. One unit can cover up to 1,000 square feet. This life-changing product is reasonably priced. And isn't your family's health worth a small investment? For more information on the miraculous effects of this plug or to purchase the Lemurian Plug, visit thelemurianplug.com. That's thelemurianplug.com. The Lemurian Plug is like nothing you've ever experienced. Order yours today.
Vegas, baby!
Vegas is #1 source for talk and new music.
How cool is that?
Going live in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to Navigating the Truth, the one show that peels back the masks of the elite and exposes the truth we're not being told.
Here to warn you.
You must not abuse the power you've been given. Eventually, you will lose control of that power and the whole world will suffer.
Come partake in the awakening by calling the show at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
Those around the world, connect with us on Skype at KCOR Radio. Follow us on Twitter at KCOR Radio or use hashtag KCOR. Come engage in the discussion live in our chat room at www.kcorradio.com.
Our survival depends upon it.
Now, back to examining the narratives and uncovering the truth with your host of Navigating the Truth, Caroline Bell Tumblety. Caroline Bell Tumblety.
Hi, welcome back to Navigating the Truth, and my name is Caroline Bell Tumblety, and I am your host on this wonderful Sunday. It's morning in Las Vegas, afternoon in New York, and it is early evening here in Scotland. And today I have a lovely guest. I have Molly Murray with me today, and she is just sharing her story with us, which is very inspirational. And I'd like to welcome you back, Molly. Hello, welcome back.
Hello, Caroline. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me. And right before the break, we had let the listeners know about the very romantic romance that you had with your lovely Scottish husband. And the proposal at the Callanish Stones, which is like, that is one for the books. I hope you took a picture that day.
Oh, we did. We had a little picture.
Yeah. And as you were telling us your story, like, how did you get to actually move here?
Well, that's quite a fun story too. And like everything else, it was quite a journey. But we had felt ourselves called back to Scotland for some time, and which is one reason why we wanted to live in Montana, to be near my parents, so that my son could have that experience with them, because we knew we'd be in Scotland for the long term. And so, but anyhow, then my husband's dad got diagnosed with liver cancer that was rapidly progressing. So we knew, okay, now this is the time. And again, we kind of had to manifest it, because it's quite a precarious journey to get a visa, even for a spouse of a UK citizen. And so that was quite stressful. But we just had to manifest every step of the way. And so one thing that I was doing, I had been decluttering everything in my life for quite a while. We had a house full of things in America. And then when I had gotten married to Gordon, I moved right to the Highlands, and I had left an apartment full of things in my parents' garage. And then, so we came back, we had moved to Oregon, and we kind of bought another apartment full of things while we were waiting for our apartment full of things to arrive from Scotland, because we missed our things. So anyhow, by the time we got to Montana, we had about 3 sets of everything. And so I had been decluttering things. And then when we decided to move back to Scotland and applied for the visa, I kind of started doing this much faster and trying to go through everything in the garage. And so going through bit by bit, but at the same time, we had a 50-50 chance of not getting the visa and not being able to go back. And so we didn't want to get rid of everything or to sell our house until we knew. And so my husband and I, well, we had to wait until we got that visa letter. And then you have to pick up your visa in 1 month at a specific post office, which we chose in Glasgow. And that's how it has to be done. You have to be there or you don't get it. And you can't fly back. Like, you have to stay in the UK for a certain amount of time after you get it. So we couldn't just go pick it up and come back and sell the house and stuff. And we had also, along that journey, we had been redoing our house. We had redone a fixer-upper. And so we were like kind of sifting through all these things, getting them in a state to where we could leave. Then we got this countdown for a month. And we had to wait until we got that yes to go ahead and start. And so then I went through and decluttered just a house full of things in 3 weeks, which I still feel like was this Herculean effort.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. I am more proud of that than many things in my life. I just feel like it was so difficult. And along the way, I kind of had another health scare. It was just a crazy time where a dentist had hit a wrong nerve and ended up like almost, well, for one day, it kind of paralyzed half my body. So we had to go into the ER, and it was just this like tremendously stressful time of things like that coming up, but still powering through. And then managed to get rid of everything and leave Montana, get to Scotland with a week to go to pick up the visa. And then on that specific day, which was right before Christmas, we were in Glasgow at that tiny little post office and just thinking like, whoa, we are here.
Wow.
It was wild.
Wow. Meant to be, though. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And we had known when we were in America, we had been talking about where we wanted to be. And I love the Highlands so much. They're so beautiful. And so many of the people are just amazing. But I also experienced quite a bit of racism and just, xenophobia is a better word for it, but just people who weren't as open to outsiders and to Americans especially. And so we knew we wanted to be down south near Glasgow because it's a much more open kind of culture. People are just used to outsiders. And so when we were in America, we decided we'd be in the city in Glasgow, or else somewhere on the Ayrshire coast. Like we liked Troon and just thought we'd like start looking from there. So after we got here, after we picked up the passport and had a little Christmas tree in our hotel, a tiny little Christmas celebration, it was really sweet and special. We started looking for homes, and so we looked in Troon, and I remember just driving through. I didn't get a great feel. Well, we liked Ayrshire, but it was wild because it was just the most windy, blustery time to go, and it was very gray. And so we're driving up. We got a really good feel as we went farther north, and then North Ayrshire we just loved. And so we got a little house in Irvine, and we were going back and forth to Lewis at that point, and I still felt like we loved Lewis so much, but we didn't feel like it was a great place to settle just because we wanted to be nearer to like the airport in Glasgow, and it's just a lot more convenient on the mainland. And we thought we better be a better fit down south, but we were going back and forth and it was exhausting. So we're like, okay, there wasn't any perfect house and things kept selling out from under us, but we're like, we just have to choose. And so we ended up buying this house that was it was like crazy. We bought it on scene, but we just felt like we need to go there. And anyhow, it closed and we moved in and got things settled. And it was this crazy time because we got in and my husband and I were both so sick with what we now know as COVID, but we were like, we have to get some furniture because the country is like closing down around us. So he went to IKEA to grab like a couch into bed when he was really sick. And I mean, of course now we know like, oh, COVID, you're not supposed to go out. But at the time, nobody really knew what was going on. So we got all these things and then lockdown hit and we couldn't go anywhere.
Thank you for listening to Navigating the Truth with my guest, Molly Murray. If you would like to hear the show in its entirety, please go to kcorradio.com and you can access the archive. Thank you. See you next week.